You know how sometimes a story pops up and you feel like you just need to dig in a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of what happened when we heard actress Daryl Hannah talking about her husband Neil Young and, well, his whole experience trying to get U.S. citizenship.
Right. During the first Trump administration specifically.
Exactly. We've been looking at reports, mostly from her recent BBC interviews, and it raises some questions, doesn't it?
It really does. It's this interesting intersection, a huge celebrity, a process that's complex anyway, and then this really charged political climate on top.
Yeah. For someone like Neil Young, so well known, you got to wonder what that was actually like.
Definitely. And he's been part of the U.S. landscape for so long.
That's easy to forget. He's Canadian, born in Toronto at 1945.
November 45.
But he came here in the mid-60s, right? Built his whole life here, paid taxes, basically American since his early 20s, just not on paper until recently.
That long connection is so important here. Came in 66, got his green card in 1970.
1970.
Yeah, so we're talking half a century, pretty much, living and working in the U.S. before applying for citizenship.
So that context makes what Daryl Hannah's saying now pretty significant.
It does.
Okay, so let's get into it. What exactly does she allege happened?
So in these recent interviews, Hannah claimed the administration actively tried to block or at least hinder his application.
Actively how?
She said they tried every trick in the book to, quote, mess up the whole process.
Mess up. Okay. Strong words.
Very. And a key claim was that they kept calling him back for interviews.
More interviews than you'd expect.
That seemed to be her implication, yeah.
Yeah.
That it felt excessive given how long he'd lived here, paid taxes, everything.
Right. Repeated interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would feel like stalling or like a hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is crucial, he did become a citizen in the end. We know that for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely confirmed. January 22nd, 2020. Neil Young himself posted it on his Instagram, the @NeilYoungArchives account.
What did he say?
Pretty straightforward. I'm happy to report I'm in. And there's a picture, him with a U.S. flag.
Oh, right. I think I remember seeing that. There was a Democrats register to vote sign, too, wasn't there?
Exactly. So whatever the process was, like, according to Hannah anyway, it did work out. He got the citizenship.
Okay. So if there were delays, like Hannah suggests, were there maybe other reasons mentioned? Anything else that might explain extra scrutiny?
Well, yes. Interestingly, if you go back just a little bit to November 2019, before it was finalized,
Okay.
Neil Young himself actually posted on his website about a delay.
Oh. What did he say caused it?
He said it was held up because of questions about his marijuana use.
Ah, okay. That's different.
Yeah, he said he'd answered truthfully, thought he'd passed everything, but then was told he needed another test.
Another test. Why?
It related to marijuana use, and his quote was something like a concern that some users have exhibited a problem.
Got it. So that adds another layer, doesn't it?
It really does.
So Hannah's pointing towards maybe political interference, but Young himself acknowledged his marijuana use led to more steps in the process.
Exactly. It seems like there could have been multiple things happening.
Makes sense.
Standard procedures around admitting drug use might just trigger more checks in any citizenship application. It's a thorough process.
Sure, background checks and all that.
Right. But at the same time, you can't just dismiss Hannah's claims out of hand, especially given, well, Young's politics.
That's a huge piece of this. He's been a very vocal critic of Donald Trump.
Very vocal, not just like quiet disapproval.
No, he sued them, didn't he? Tried to stop them using Keep On Rockin' in the Free World at rallies in 2020.
He did. That lawsuit was later dropped. But yeah, he took action. He doesn't hold back his opinions.
Clearly not.
And that seems directly connected to worries he has now.
Worries now.
Yeah.
Even though he's a citizen.
Yes. According to reports, again, via the BBC, from his website, he's apparently worried that his past criticism of Trump could cause problem.
What kind of problem?
Like being denied re-entry to the U.S. after his European tours planned for this summer, or even potentially being jailed on return.
Jailed. Wow. That sounds extreme.
He used some pretty vivid language. Talked about fearing he might sleep on a cement floor with an aluminum blanket.
Goodness. So, a U.S. citizen worried his political speech might prevent him from coming home.
That seems to be his fear, yes. It's quite striking.
But what does Daryl Hannah say about that specific fear? Does she share it?
Interestingly, her take seems a bit different on that point. She's talked about how, hideous and horrifying she finds the situation for green card and visa holders facing issues.
Okay.
But her feeling, apparently, is that because Neil Young is now an American citizen, he actually won't have problems getting back into the country.
So they have slightly different views on the immediate risk, perhaps.
It seems that way, based on what's been reported. She seems more confident in the protection citizenship offers in that specific scenario.
Okay, let's just recap this a bit. We've got Daryl Hannah saying the Trump admin deliberately made the citizenship process hard.
Right. Repeated interviews, tricks in the book.
We know Young did get citizenship in 2020.
Confirmed.
We also know he mentioned delays linked to marijuana use questions back in 2019.
Yes. Another factor he brought up himself.
And now Young is voicing these quite serious fears about returning to the U.S. because of his past political comments.
Well, his wife seems to think his citizenship status should protect him from that specific issue.
It's a really complex picture, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The journey to citizenship was allegedly made difficult, and now the rights of that citizenship are apparently a source of anxiety for Young himself.
It really makes you think. I mean, here's this huge celebrated artist, lived here forever.
Right.
And his path to citizenship allegedly had these weird roadblocks. And now, as a citizen, he's worried about speaking his mind.
Yeah, it draws a spotlight on that intersection of fame, politics, and just the nuts and bolts of immigration and citizenship.
Does it maybe raise questions about what happens when very public figures get political? Do they face different kinds of scrutiny?
That's a really good question. Does their visibility change things? And what could that mean for the general climate around immigration or free speech?
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? Because when you look at the story, this DRM News global look into Neil Young's situation, it naturally makes you wonder about everyone else.
Exactly. People going through the same citizenship process without that global spotlight.
If someone this famous allegedly faced hurdles, what's it like for others? It gives you a lot to chew on about the whole process and what citizenship means and that tension between political views and individual rights.
Definitely.
It sort of leaves you with this thought. What does this very specific, high-profile case suggest about the wider experience for people trying to become American and the freedoms they expect once they get there?